Welcome to Routing for Success, the show where we interview today's top logistics professionals, giving them a platform to share their stories and best practices. Today we are talking with Patrick Luze. Patrick is an independent service provider for FedEx Ground via his company, Patrick Luze Delivery. In this episode, we talk about how Patrick got his start as a driver and then AO for another contractor before going out on his own, some tips that he has for driver retention, and finally, a franchise opportunity that Patrick is doing to get better utilization out of his vehicle assets. I am pleased to present to you Patrick Luze. All right, we're here with Patrick Luze. Patrick, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
So let's talk about your FedEx Ground contracting business, but first, tell us about you.
So prior to FedEx, I was in the restaurant industry for about 25 years. And it just happened to be that I was working in Omaha at the Harrah's Casino, multi-outlet restaurant manager. And my brother decided to buy one of our hometown steakhouses that we actually worked in when we were growing up in high school. And we decided we were going to open up this restaurant, or not open up the restaurant, but take it over. It had been in business for over 30 years. So it was kind of a staple in our hometown. And we decided we were going to take the steakhouse over and continue it on for 30 years. Well, this is back in about the time that, well, let me back up a little bit. Sorry. It was known as the best steakhouse in town was out of town. And it was actually 7 miles outside of town in Sioux City, Iowa. And we opened it up. And shortly after we opened up, right on the outskirts of town, Texas Roadhouse opened up. Well, that kind of put a damper on things. And then shortly after that, Golden Corral opened up right next door to them. And then Eldon's Steakhouse also opened up in the same time frame. And it really kind of put the screws to us. And it was hard for us to survive. And so one thing led to another, and ultimately we ended up going out of business. But during that time, our lead server during the daytime, her husband was a FedEx contractor. So he's like, you need a job. I need drivers. He just, if it's a year, if it's 2 years, come work for me as a driver. So I went to work for him as a driver for a year. And then I eventually, just being a driver wasn't cutting it, because I was making a lot of money in the restaurant business, being an outlaw, working at Harrah's Casino, et cetera. So after exactly a year, I was able to find another job in the restaurant business, and they put me on the road for the next 3 years. I was just on the road. I was in Pasco, Washington at one point in time. After 3 years, that contractor called me back and says, "Hey, I need a manager to come back to work for me as a manager or my AO, because I can't handle this anymore. It's grown so big, I can't handle it." And it just happened to be that, I was out of town on a 2-week stint in Pasco, Washington. There's a text message conversation. "Hey, can you come back and be my manager? I don't want you as a driver. I want you to be a manager." I sent back a text message saying, "Yeah, I'd be interested. What would it take?" I'm like, "Okay, well, I want this, and this." 20 minutes later, "When can you start?" And never actually talked to the guy or whatever. So I ended up coming back as his AO. And one of the biggest reasons he hired me is he needed somebody to be the middleman or the liaison between him and the station manager, because they really butted heads. They did not get along at all. So he hired me to be the mediator between him and the station, and it worked really well. So because the station manager and I got along really well, it just him and the station manager did not get along whatsoever. Anyway, I was his AO for about 5 years until he decided to just up and walk away from it. He was done with it. And because I had that good relationship with the station manager, BDS didn't even know who the hell I was, much less the district guy, but that's relationship with the senior manager. He ended up turning around and awarding me the territory. So I ended up getting it basically for free.
So you got it for free.
I got it for free.
I feel like that's super unique. Most people who get into the business of FedEx Ground contracting, at least for the first entrance into it,
Yep.
you got to buy a business. You have to buy the rights to a territory.
Yep.
There's no more land to give out. So, the packages are being delivered by somebody. That was a unique set of circumstances that allowed you to get in with, very little money out of pocket, right?
Yeah. But if I didn't have that relationship with that senior manager or whatever, there's no way I was going to get into it because I didn't have that kind of resources at that point in time. So, yeah. So we ended up running it for about a year and a half or whatever. And then BDS, to kind of make a name for myself, I started doing contingency in other terminals and stuff. BDS all of a sudden became, he knew who I was and he was reaching out to me for help and stuff. And he took me to Minnesota, Maple Grove, Minnesota, where they awarded me another free territory. So I got a second one in Maple Grove, Minnesota. We ran that one for 2 years. We got it set up. We sold it. And now here we are taking those funds to actually buy another territory in our existing terminal. And it's going to bring us up to scale. So I think it was the right business move, so now we don't have to travel. We don't have to spend time in Maple Grove, Minnesota or whatever, out of state. So it was a no-brainer for me at that point in time. So
you're in the process of buying another territory that's adjacent to your existing CSA,
yep,
right?
Same terminal, and we stand up in August 19th.
August 19th. Yep. Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
So once that's done, how many daily routes will you be up to?
So with that, busiest day, we'll be running 15 to 18 routes depending on volume.
15 to 18 a
Yep.
day. Okay.
So
tell us a little bit about, so the Minnesota operation, you built it up into a successful operation and sold it. Tell us about some of the challenges of making that happen, because you were doing that from afar and you had your CSA in your hometown. So you had to juggle both of those. What did that look like?
The biggest challenge in Maple Grove was the labor market. We were competing with so many other contractors for the same employees, and it was very difficult. I couldn't find managers really even to run it, and so it was very challenging, trying to be disconnected from the business. I had to literally be up there 2-3 times a month or whatever, living in hotel rooms and stuff. So it was very challenging, and that wasn't really what our goal was. It wasn't to be that hands-on from that far away. So once we found other people that were interested in it, it was like, yeah, absolutely. This makes more sense because you have people that live here, to do the hands-on daily functions and stuff. So it's cool. Right time to buy is when you have a buyer, or right time to sell is when you have a buyer.
Sure.
So when route consultants helped us out with that also, obviously. So yeah.
So tell us about, over the years, what are some important lessons that you've learned when it comes to running a successful FedEx operation?
Well, your business model has to change when FedEx changes. My business model 3 years ago is completely different than it is now. I thought I was going to be in 9 different terminals at this point in time 3 years ago. Now I just want to be in one terminal and diversify and put my eggs in multiple baskets, not just with FedEx. So, with FedEx changing the rules every day, we kind of have to change our business every day also. So
when you say FedEx changing the rules every day, you have to change your business. Can you give us some examples of rules or things that have changed that you've had to respond to?
One of the biggest things was scale. 3 years or 2 years ago, they told us that, nope, you can't get any bigger in Sioux City. You have to, if you want to get bigger, you need to go to Maple Grove, Minnesota if you want to grow your business. You're as big as you can get in Sioux City. We will not allow you to get any bigger. Okay, so that's what we did. We went to Maple Grove, Minnesota and bought in up there. And 2 years later, now you can be bigger in Sioux City. So, what is it? What's the rule today is not the rule tomorrow. Yeah. And so when we had the opportunity to get bigger in Sioux City, yes, that's what we wanted to do in the first place. But 2 years ago, you told us we couldn't. Now you're saying that we can. That was the biggest one right there.
Man, that was so tough. I've spoken with so many contractors who were over scale because FedEx had come out and said, okay, we actually prefer, I don't know if they explicitly said this, but through their policies, they implied we really prefer to work with smaller contractors. So, they set limits in each terminal. You can only have so much percentage within a certain terminal. So there were a lot of contractors who were basically forced to sell off pieces of their business to get down to scale. And then some time went by and they did a total 180, right? And they said, you know what? Never mind. We want to go the other way. We actually prefer to have a fewer number of larger, more established contractors. So you're now under scale. We need you to grow and take on more territory, right?
Yeah. And the guy that I'm buying from, that was his exact story also. 2 years ago, he was told, you have to split your territory if you want to sell it. So he split his territory. His business partner took over one half. He took over the other half. And then now when he wanted to sell, FedEx changed the rules and said, nope, you either have to sell to somebody in your building or you have to recombine with your former partner and then sell it at that point. And he was just fit to be tied also. It's like, how do you change the rules like that? And I guess we just have to grin and bear it, I guess,
Yeah, I mean, that's all you can do is roll with the punches, right? What are some other lessons that you've learned over the years? I hear people talk about that there's a few pillars of this business to be successful, right? You've got operational efficiency, you've got safety, you've got customer service. You could even put, relations with FedEx terminal management in that. You had mentioned that you were doing a good job with that afforded you some opportunities. What are some other things you feel like you do really well in your business?
So for me, my number one philosophy was always has been and will always be, take care of the people that take care of you. And I've got very low turnover rate for our guys. That's because it's not in the recruitment, it's in the retention. If you can retain the guys that you've got. And I was fortunate after Christmas was over with, I ended up with a handful of people or whatever that were the best employees that I've had in 10 years. And I did not want to let any of those individuals go, or I didn't want to cut their hours. So I went out and found business for them to do. So, and I think they respect me for that, I think that's the biggest thing right there. Take care of your people. Take care of the people that take care of you. I just wish FedEx would take care of its contractors. Really.
I want to talk more about that. I was talking to a FedEx contractor recently who also has a business where he handles end of contract negotiations for other FedEx contractors. He has 400 FedEx contractors who he does this with. But he told me, he said, Ryan, you need to get someone on the podcast who is doing really well with driver retention. If you get someone on the podcast who's doing really well with driver retention, that'll probably be the most popular podcast episode. People need to hear about that. So I asked this guy, I said, well, 400 contractors, give me one. Who is it? And he said, Ryan, I can't tell you a single one. We're all struggling with driver retention. I don't know that anybody actually has it figured out, but it sounds like you're doing okay with that. Can tell us more about that. What are you doing?
Maybe I'm just lucky, but I would like to think that if you went to any of my drivers or whatever, they would say, hey, I want to work for this guy because they take care of their employees. They give out raises before they have to ask for raises, and I'm upfront and honest with them. I don't hide anything from them. I tell them how much I'm making on the route. Why do you do that? It's because if I'm making money, you should be making more money also. And I think they respect me for that. But we do other things also. We try to do multiple things throughout the course of the year, in addition to quarterly bonuses, vacation giveaways for productivity and stuff like that. And I think, giving away a vacation, that a 3-day vacation to Branson, Missouri or whatever has been popular over the last couple of years. But on top of that, we do Christmas parties and biannual get-togethers. I've got a couple of Hispanics who work for me, and they've done authentic tacos at the restaurants. The drivers get back at the end of the night, they feed their families, so they're given tacos and burritos and tortas and stuff like that to take home to their families and stuff to feed their families, and that went over really well this last couple of months ago. But just doing little things like that to let the employees know that they're appreciated, but taking care of them giving out the raises, giving them the money before they feel that they have to come and ask you for the raise. I think that's huge. Another thing is that you always listen to the whispers before you have to hear the screams. So always listening to what are the drivers complaining about the workloads? Are they complaining about, the oversized packages and the sheer amount of miles that they're driving or whatever? So if I can adjust those before I have to hear them actually screaming and crying about it, I think that's big too. That's it. I really haven't done anything extravagant. I think my drivers are probably one of the higher paid in our terminal that we're in, but I'm also not paying all that training money to retrain and rehire people and reclothe them and all that kind of good stuff, because you spend a lot of money on training an employee. So once you get them through that training process, you want to do whatever you can to retain them. So, yeah.
So how often, you'd mentioned that you proactively give raises. How often are you doing that with your drivers?
So there's no set time frame. If they earn it, then I feel obligatory to give it to them then. If it's 3 months, great. If it's 6 months, fine. But I'm not doing it I'm not waiting a year to give out raises. You can't do that anymore. I mean, if somebody's comes on board and they're really, hauling the mail for you and making money, you can't string them along for a year and wait for them to come to you and say, hey, I think I deserve more money. No, it's like, man, you've been doing a really good job. You're actually helping us make money to cover some of these other routes that aren't making as much as they should be. And here's an extra 50 cents or $1 or whatever. And that goes a long way right there, I think.
So it sounds like you're really hands-on. Would that be accurate?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you in the terminal every day?
If it's not me, it's my wife,
Okay.
So I think we run the business really well together, as a partnership. But I've also got 2 BCs that are very awesome. We're here all this week and we're in Orlando next week or whatever. And I got 2 BCs that were doing a phenomenal job for us. And so we're more hands-on because I think that, get a lot more respect from the drivers because they see us every day, whereas, other contractors that you aren't necessarily in the building on a weekly basis or even a monthly basis. I don't know how they can run their business like that and expect it not to be on fire,
So the things that you're saying to me, some of them seem pretty, I would say standard, like just good practice to treat people that way. Some other things, you're probably doing things that other FedEx contractors aren't doing, right? So, I mean, I guess just to kind of review the checklist and let me know if I'm missing anything. You treat people well. I mean, you're showing up and engaging with them. You proactively give raises. So you're already one of the higher paying contractors in the terminal. That probably helps prevent people from jumping ship and just going to work for the other guy, down the belt. You pay attention to the whispers before it becomes a scream. So just try to pick up on any negativity that might be festering, or if you think you might have a problem with someone, just nip it in the bud. You do a Christmas holiday party. You have some sort of contest to send someone on a 3-day vacation. You do that once a year?
Twice a year. Twice a year.
Yep. And then just other little things like sending people home with food for their families. Yeah. I think that was all of it. Was I missing anything, or were those kind of the...
Yeah, and I think the big one of the bigger ones is the quarterly bonuses. Quarterly bonuses. The drivers get bonuses if they have no missed deliveries, no complaints, et cetera. And another big one, though, is that I pay, if you've got 100% perfect attendance, you get another bonus every quarter, and then for the fourth quarter, I double those bonuses, because it's more important than ever, to make sure that the driver's there during Christmas time, so.
So Patrick, there's a lot of contractors listening in who listen to this podcast because they're looking for information that they can apply to their own business.
Sure.
And I'm sure that they're wondering right now, if you wouldn't mind, if you're comfortable, could you just tell us the bonus amounts that you pay and exactly how you structure that?
Yeah, they're not extravagant. I think that there's contractors that pay more bonuses than I am. But for example, the perfect attendance is $100 every quarter. Christmas time, it's $200. So I think that's a big one right there. So when somebody calls in, says, "Oh, I'm not feeling very well today," it's like, well, that's fine, but you're going to lose your bonus for this quarter, and you only have 2 weeks to go. Oh, that's okay. I think I can make, and they come in, but, and I've had 2 call-offs since Christmas of last year.
Only 2?
2.
Wow.
Out of 15 drivers or 15 employees. So maybe it's the area of the country I'm in. I don't know. But, so we've got $100 for perfect attendance. I pay them $100 to take care of their trucks and make sure the trucks are clean inside and out. I don't like jumping in a truck and driving for a day in somebody else's mess. We've got safety bonuses that are team oriented. So if the entire team goes accident free for the quarter, everybody gets $100. But if one person has an accident, everybody loses their safety bonus for that month. So it's kind of peer driven. And then there's also the $50, $100 for complaints, $100 for missed deliveries. So it's not much, and I've heard of contractors bonusing a lot more than that, but it seems to be working for me anyway. So, yeah.
So we're here in Vegas. Last night, we got to hear Kevin O'Leary speak.
Yes.
And one of the things that Kevin had suggested was, what you guys should really do, FedEx contractors? You should find other ways to make money from the trucks that you have. And, he had put a couple ideas out there, which, I don't know if they would totally work, but I was thinking of you because you were telling me about something which I think is pretty unique. I haven't heard of anyone else doing this. Tell us about your new thing that you found that's helping you make more money with your trucks.
Yeah. So like I said, after Christmas was over with last year, I ended up with a handful of drivers that I did not want to let them go. I did not want to cut their pay. I didn't want to cut their hours. I didn't want to let any of them go because they were great. And I wanted to figure out a way to keep them gainfully employed until next peak season so I didn't have to rehire next peak. And I came across this ad on Sirius XM, and it was for Mr. Sandless Floor Refinishing. There's a franchise based out of Philadelphia, whatever, using 119 franchises across the nation, 10 different countries. And anyway, I went onto the website, I checked it out, and it just made sense to me in my mind because I can use the same vehicles that I'm using right now to deliver FedEx packages. I can use the same employees. I can hook up with the same insurance companies, workers' comp insurance companies, whatever, to do the same business in the same vehicles, same employees. And we researched it, and it's stupid simple to do. It's a very easy process to get it to get signed up for. The entire process, start to finish, for one job, is 6 to 8 hours.
So what is the work? I mean, what are you actually doing?
So it's a sandless floor refinishing. It's an alternative for somebody that has hardwood floors. And if you were to sand those floors down, it could be a 5 to 7 day process, and it could cost $7,000 to $8,000, maybe $9,000 to sand your floors, restain your floors, refinish them. You have to move out of your house. Well, this process, Mr. Sandless Floor Refinishing, it's a 1 day service. We pull up, we apply a non-toxic solution to the floor. Come back with a rotary machine. We scrub the floors with this rotary machine. Anything that comes off the floor is contained in the solution. We mop it off, let it, put blowers and dryers on the floors and let it dry. Then we come back and add a finish solution or a finish to the top, let that dry, maybe 2 or 3 coats of the finish, then a polyurethane coat on top. As soon as we're done, customers can walk on the floor within, an hour or so of us finishing the process. We're done and out of there. It takes about 24 to 48 hours for it to fully cure and harden. But then it's, the process is done in 6 to 8 hours versus 5 to 7 days. And it offers a product to the customer that's much cheaper solution than sanding floors. And, when you sand a floor, you're only going to be able to sand a floor 2, maybe 3 times before you're going to have to replace the floor. This extends the life of your hardwood floors, and anybody can do it.
And so this is a franchise.
Yes.
So how are you leveraging your existing assets and personnel from your FedEx Ground contracting business to do this franchise work?
So the beauty is that I can schedule the flooring jobs in and around where I think the slowest days of the week are. For us in our terminal, the slowest days of the week are Tuesdays and Thursdays, or Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Sorry, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So my drivers will actually drive on Saturdays and Mondays, and then they'll do four jobs on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and then Thursdays and Fridays, 2 busiest days, while they're back at FedEx. So it really works well as far as scheduling right now during this time of the year. At Christmas time, I'm just going to shutter the flooring service for 6 to 7 weeks during Christmas. Maybe push any scheduling of those floors to January 1st. Pull those 4 people that I have doing floors and the vans, my existing vans, just taking the magnets and for the flooring business off, so I got 2 sets of magnets. One set of magnets that covers up the operating as FedEx Ground and there's no DOT number because of the L10 vehicles. But just replacing the vehicle magnets, replacing the uniforms of the employees, putting them in, using the same tablets and scanners or whatever that we're using for the floor business. They go deliver packages for 6 to 7 weeks during Christmas. And then January 1st rolls around. Well, we just take the magnets back off and go back to work doing the floor.
So you're using the same trucks, using magnets to cover the logoing. So you have the proper logoing for whichever job that truck is doing, but also your employees. So they're employed by your FedEx business as a driver and by your franchise company doing these floor refinishes. So you train them to both deliver packages and do this floor refinishing.
Yep. Absolutely.
Do they like one or the other better?
So far they like the floor business a lot better because it pays $10 more per hour.
$10 more per hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the floor guys are making about $30 an hour, whereas FedEx are only making $20 an hour.
Yeah.
So they'd much rather do a floor job than this. But until we get built up to a point where, we're doing it full time, it's going to take a little bit. We just started doing this about 4 months ago. But so far we got more business than we can handle right now for the number of employees that we have.
So interesting. Yeah. And I feel like that's a creative way to, again, get better utilization out of your assets, so you don't have trucks sitting, but also for your personnel. If you don't have work for someone and you send them home for a day, you only get to do that so many times before they just go find another job. They have to put food on the table.
Right.
I feel like that's got to help with your driver retention too. You're not just talking about a $20 an hour delivery job. If they were to leave, they would also be leaving the $30 an hour floor refinishing job too, right?
Absolutely right. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And the cool thing about Mr. Sandless, one job in Mr. Sandless does more than 4 routes in revenue in one day, so it's a no-brainer for me. And it's 40 to 60% profit. The average job in 2022 for Mr. Sandless was $2,091, I think. So even if you take a 40% profit of $2,091, it's another no-brainer.
Yeah. So where can people find more information on this if they're listening or watching and they want to explore this?
Just go to mrsandless.com. There's a section in the top right-hand corner of his webpage. You can find out more information about how to own a franchise. There's a list of territories that are available on that website also. But right now, he's looking to double in size. He really wants to aggressively grow this year. So, just mention when they'd ask for how did you hear about us, just say, Route Consultants, or use my name, Pat Luze. And that's where you go. It tells you there's links on YouTube also about how the process is done, and you'll see that almost anybody could do this business.
Pat, sometimes I like to put your email address in the notes for the podcast. So if someone wants to contact you, would that be okay?
Yes,
for people
absolutely.
to reach out to you?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. It's PLLUZE family@gmail.com. So, yeah. Absolutely.
Patrick, is there anything else you want to talk about while we're here?
No, I appreciate your time, and And sorry, I was a little nervous. But
No, you were great. You were great. Yeah. I hope you had fun. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Routing for Success is brought to you by AP Equipment Financing. In today's competitive market, it is essential to acquire the right trucks at a fair price and finance them in a way that makes sense for your business. Leveraging their extensive network of truck and van suppliers, the experts at AP Equipment Financing will help you locate the best deals on step vans, cutaways, panel vans, and more. Deliver them straight to your facility and finance them with low monthly installment options. Click the link in the description or visit apfinancing.com for more information. Routing for Success is an independent production of AP Equipment Financing and is in no way affiliated with or endorsed by FedEx Corporation, FedEx Ground, Amazon, or any other logistics company discussed herein. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Routing for Success.